So I'm actually going to help one of my friends. His name is Kurt. So this job that he did is actually building, I think it's a total of 14 louvers. I'm just going to be helping with the installation of what we're actually doing. And you'll see why we need to have two people. This is definitely a unique job in the sense that it's not just throwing cabinets up on a wall. I think that'll be interesting to share with you guys, and it'll be a learning experience for both Kurt and myself. We're going to go meet at the house right now and just kind of get staged, and then we'll go from there. So I will see you guys at the house.
We saw it coming, but we can prepare this time.
So that's me right there, and Kurt is in the red shirt, and I totally asked him to wear a red shirt for this video. That way he doesn't get confused with me. I totally did that. Anyway, to give you some brief context, right behind me right now is the front door, and what we're currently standing in is the main entryway. And I know, it's pretty big. Running along the entire entryway up at the top is a soffit, and that's about 12 inches wide. And that is going to be where the louvers tie into at the top. This whole thing is going to be symmetrical. There's going to be 7 on the left side and then 7 on the right side. That way when you walk through the front door in the center, it's super eye-catching and it ties the whole room together. Now, before we drilled any holes, Kurt and I first wanted to come up with a game plan of how we're going to install the very first louver. The first one is by far the most important because the ones preceding it will be based off wherever this first louver lands. And now here you can totally see that having two people is really important and is pretty much a requirement for this type of work. We both were able to carefully tilt it up into place, and then while one of us held it, the other one was able to go and get the tools and get it staged. Then while Kurt held it in place, I slid a 1/2 inch spacer against the wall. This spacer not only gave us a consistent gap off of the wall, but it then helped with spacing out the rest of the louvers afterwards. And so I first drilled through the oak flooring with just a normal drill bit, and then I used a hammer drill to go maybe another inch or so into the foundation. These things are not going anywhere. And then somehow after switching spots, Kurt then drove in the screws as I kept it from falling up on the ladder. And so here's the key to this whole thing. To get something dead plumb, it needs to be straight in 2 axes, from side to side and back and forth. By sliding the spacer up to the top, knowing that the wall was level, we were able to get it plumb in one direction, and then, while holding a level on the opposing face of the louver, we were able to get it from side to side, nice and plumb. And it was then onto the second, the third, the fourth, and so on. And I'll tell you what, the last one took less than 5 minutes, which was amazing, and after the first day, we were exactly halfway done. On day 2, with our process hammered out pretty well, we started on the other side. We realized that the flooring was a good reference point and actually used it to lay out the rest of the hole locations much easier than what we were doing before. It's little things like this that you can pick up on once you're actually at the job doing the install. With the floor, we had no idea that it was going to be perfectly straight, but thankfully it was, and it just happened to work in our favor. Now, although I'm not sharing the actual building process of these louvers, I would like to share some forethought that went into the process of designing these. Essentially, these are just long rectangles with holes on either end. If you stack up a bunch of these next to each other, wabam, you got louvers. These metal pins were actually fabricated just for this job, and all it is just a round bar and then a flat plate that was welded to the end. And then we wrapped the pins with, I think it was either 3 or 4 wraps of electrical tape, and what this allowed was the louver to spin freely but not allow any slop or play. Now this is the really cool part. The lower pin bottoms out inside of the skeleton of the louver, leaving about a 3/8 gap off of the floor. And that way, all of the weight of the louver is inside on the top surface of the pin. And the upper pin is a little bit different. You actually push that pin up and screw it into the ceiling. And when you do that, it'll give you the same 3/8 gap on top. A smooth install like this is really only possible with a good level of forethought. But man, it is really cool to see something like this executed properly. Now, if you have any questions on what you've seen or anything I've talked about, don't hesitate to leave a comment down below. But hopefully I could answer a couple common questions that you might have. And the first one is in regards to the 1/2" spacer and why we ended up going with a 1/2". And the reason for that is because when you turn the louvers, if you turn both of them at the same time, a 1/2" was just enough of a spacing that we needed in order to prevent them from hitting each other when they both turn. The second question is, what do the louvers actually look like inside? There's a hardwood frame made of poplar, which is then sandwiched in between two pieces of MDF. The actual surface is a wood veneer that was then sprayed with a dye stain and then a clear coat on top. Now, a really simple question that you might have is, how tall are these louvers? And the answer to that is they're just under 10 feet. I always enjoy learning from other craftsmen, and I hope that maybe I could be that person for you. I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.